No, you didn't. I didn't.
All right, we're live. Hey, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are really excited to be here today with the Hatch and Real Local RVA and Apple Cart crew. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us this afternoon. We are thrilled to be reviewing the essentials of digital marketing. It goes without saying, but obviously the pandemic has really impacted all of our businesses. And as we navigate new ways of engaging with our audiences, we wanted to share some of our favorite pro tips with you all so that you can sort of make the best of your digital marketing in this moment. But before we dive in, I want to hand it over to Beth Ferguson, the Executive Director of Real Local RVA, to give us a little bit of a welcome.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're so glad so many of you are joining us today. I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank Campfire & Company and the Richmond Experience for being willing to do this workshop today for our members and our customers. We're so appreciative of you guys taking this time. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the director of Real Local. If you don't know much about our organization, we are a grassroots membership group working to build a stronger and more collaborative local food system here in Richmond. And if you're not a member, we'd love to have you join us. You can learn a lot more about us on our website. And feel free to reach out with any questions. Our goal is to support small local food businesses and farmers and grocers and all of the folks that are working to make our food system stronger. And then I'm speaking today also on behalf of Jordan Hanna, the Director of Sales and Marketing at Hatch Kitchen. Hatch Richmond grew out of an unmet demand for shared kitchen space and the search for a better way to start and build food or beverage businesses. They offer a commissary kitchen, a pop-up venue, contract packaging, logistics, and more. So you can learn a lot more about them if you're not familiar on their website, which is hatchrichmond.com. And then also here on behalf of the Apple Cart, Barb Upchurch is the owner of the Apple Cart company, and Barb is a consultant that helps start and grow food businesses. So her website is theapplecartcompany.com if you want to find more info about her services as well. So thanks again, you guys. We're so excited to see how this goes today, and looking forward to all your insight. So thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Beth. I feel like that's a great transition into asking you all to introduce yourselves as well. There's a chat bar on the right there, and we would love for everyone to drop your name, your business name, maybe your website or your Instagram handle, so that we can all follow and support each other. It's really nice to have this moment to chat, but we'd also really love to keep this conversation going offline as well. Okay, additionally, before we dive in, wanted to just kind of introduce you guys to sort of the layout here. Two key things, that chat bar on the right, please comment in there, talk to each other. Would love to keep that going while we are chatting on screen. But also at the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a little call to action down there that says ask a question. That's a great place to pop in questions throughout our conversation so that when we get to the end, we can circle back and answer all of your questions. So feel free to add things in there throughout the workshop. No question is too small or too silly. We are happy to answer any of them. Okay, I'm going to pull our presentation up here. And I'm going to pass it over to Sam with the Richmond Experience to kick us off with our introductions.
Hey guys, I am Samantha Knight, the founder at the Richmond Experience, and I've had the pleasure of working with some of you to promote your businesses. In case you don't know us, the Richmond Experience is the local's guide to the best of what to do, see, eat, drink, and experience in RVA. A membership to the Richmond Experience is the best way to know about Richmond's social scene. Over the last 4 years, we have grown our social media community to more than 68,000 followers across platforms, and our weekly email subscriber list to more than 2,000 paying members. We know what it takes to build an audience, and we're here to share some tips with you on how to do the same. So to help with that effort, we also have Alicia here from RVAX, and she will introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alicia Walensky, and I'm the managing editor and media director at the Richmond Experience. I've been a part of the team for going on a year now, and it's been so exciting to work with so many of you on promoting your business to our members and our followers. In a past life, I've worked as a sponsored content editor at the Charlotte Observer in Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as an SEO and email marketing consultant at a variety of agencies. So really across the board, a lot of content marketing experience, particularly in the digital scene. So excited to share some of that with you and to be here with our friends at Campfire & Co. Christy, if you want to take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm Christy Thompson. I'm one of the partners at Campfire & Co. and also lead brand strategist with our team. I'm joined by my colleague, Chelsea Glowacki, who is a graphic and web designer on our team. She's been instrumental in helping us pull together this presentation and ebook and is helps us lead a lot of our branding work. If you're not familiar, Campfire & Co. is a design studio in Richmond. We specialize in strategy, branding, web design, and interior design. We've got a small but mighty team of 6, and we have supported nearly 200 brands in Richmond, which is honestly crazy to think about, but we are humbled by the support of our local community. Needless to say, we love helping local businesses create meaningful brand experiences that help get them noticed. So what are we talking about today? Let's get into it.
So to get the most out of today, we wanted to quickly review the format of today's conversation. We will cover 4 main focus areas: branding, websites, social media, and email marketing. Are these exhaustive of every digital marketing avenue available? Definitely not. But these 4 areas are essential and worth serious attention and investment over the lifetime of your business. So we're going to start here. And because we like to break things down into small digestible bites, we're going to cover each section using 3 levels. Level number 1 is going to cover your basics. So you'll be in good shape if you can check off everything in level 1. Level 2, these tips dive a little deeper, and it's where you're going to start really turning heads with your brand. Level 3 is going to be your stretch goals. So these are the ones that you might want to call reinforcements in for, like your friends over here at the Richmond Experience and at Campfire. So now that you guys know what to expect, I will hand it over to Christy. She's going to cover our first section.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sam. Okay, first up, we are talking all about branding. It probably goes without saying, but branding is really the foundation of your digital marketing efforts. A lot of you all probably already know this, but branding is more than just a logo or a color palette, right? Your brand is basically what people say behind your back. It's what folks remember about you. It's what people say when you're not in the room. It's the experience you provide and then the connection you make with your customers. So how do you make sure folks are saying the things that you really want them to say? Start by establishing your brand foundation. That means your goals, your values, and your differentiators. This is all about establishing what you stand for as a company. So explore and define your goals, identify and articulate your values, and then finally, ensure you know what makes you different, and then get ready to share that message. Next up, identify your audience and what they really care about. So this sounds easy, but we know that this is harder than it looks. Using your intuition and empathy, define who your customers are. Group them into similar categories and maybe even create a persona for each one of those categories. If you're an established business, you have the benefit of potentially being able to use real data that you already have. Better yet, you could potentially survey your audience to get to know them better. The idea here is that you're trying to understand their motivations and their pain points as it relates to your offering. So finally, refer back to this knowledge and start tailoring the message of your branding to what your audience really needs and cares about. Finally, for level 1, if you don't already have a logo and you're just getting started, you can always DIY a simple set of graphics. But the main point here is to be consistent. The key to a great DIY brand or creating a visual identity without a designer is to be simple and then consistent with it. So avoid the temptation to create something new every day. I know that if you guys use Canva or one of those template programs, it can be really hard to make sure you're constantly pulling it back and really keeping it close to a set of standards. Whether or not your brand is professionally designed, brand recognition is always built on consistency and repetition. Okay, so now we've got our level 1. Let's take a peek at that next step of branding, level 2. This is where you start to set yourself apart from the pack. So first up, establish a brand personality. So pushing yourself a little bit further than that foundation of goals, we want to really push your brand into the real world. If it were a living, breathing person, who would it be? A passionate world traveler who loves to tell stories and try new things? Or maybe a quiet but influential leader who really knows how to listen. Or perhaps it's a vibrant Jane of all trades who loves to learn. Give your brand a full set of personality traits, motivations, and a specific tone of voice. And then when you're speaking from your brand, embody this person, kind of use it as an alter ego so that each time your brand is talking to your audience, it feels like it's coming from the same person. Next up, procure a professional logo, mark, and graphic standards. Okay, I know that I just said that you can DIY it, but to take your brand to the next level, working with a pro will really give you the opportunity to create a logo and graphic identity of your dreams. The right design team will be able to provide perspective, expertise, and an organized process so that your final brand embodies your personality and really appeals to that audience we talked about in level 1. Not to mention, a set of brand standards and files will allow you to employ your brand in a professional and cohesive manner across all of your channels. Our final pro tip for level 2 is to create marketing materials using those professional brand assets. So one of the most valuable aspects of having a high quality set of graphic elements is that you're really easily able to create professional looking marketing materials more easily. So leveraging templates, like I was talking about with Canva, and then applying your graphic standards will make it so much easier to create high quality social media shares, ads, invitations, newsletters, and all of the rest of that. Okay, now we're going to graduate to level 3. This is really where it starts to get fun and interesting. If you're a more established company, this is also where you ought to see some important areas to lean into. First up is a professional brand strategy. Exploring your values, differentiators, and audience segments can be really, really hard to do on your own. A professional brand strategist will provide the framework and expert perspective on the most foundational parts of your business. Especially if you're a team that has multiple leaders or maybe a couple different levels of hierarchy, it can really be a lifesaver to have a third party facilitate that big picture conversation so that everybody feels heard and everybody is on the same page. A comprehensive brand manual is another great tool to have in your branding toolkit. If you have more than one person in your marketing team, it might be time for a more comprehensive set of standards or manual. This will provide specific and detailed instructions on how to use your brand assets, colors, typefaces, graphics, and more. This can be a really helpful tool, basically to keep bigger teams on the same page when work is delegated across multiple people across your organization. Next up, your branded interior space. So if you have a physical location where people are interacting with your brand, this is a huge opportunity to expand your experience into something that is fully immersive. Consider your favorite spaces. Every detail within them often tells a story. From the materials to the lighting to the way that you're greeted, these are all touch points that can take really awesome ideas and then turn them into beloved brands. Finally, branded touch points. So touch points is a term that Campfire likes to use a lot, but it's basically just any place where your customer or client is interacting with your brand. So this could be your menu, your packaging, to something as simple as your email signature. These moments have the potential to echo your brand voice and build recognition. So make sure you don't forget about them and then really thoughtfully consider whether or not doing that internally is something that you can handle, or if working with a professional designer is something that you might look into. Having someone else outside of your team help out with those items is another great way to ensure they elevate your brand experience. And additionally, it can alleviate just some workload from your marketing team if they're a little stretched thin. Consumers these days are extremely savvy, and they are really expecting thoughtfully designed details at every stage of brand interaction. So make sure to consider what those touch points are and then which ones you really want to invest in. Okay, before we wrap up branding, let's take a quick look at a few local businesses who are really killing it with execution. First up, in a recent rebrand, Carytown Cupcakes has fully embraced their brand personality. They're playful, they're cheeky, and they are using bold language along with Instagrammable murals and really clever packaging to embody that brand personality in all of those key touch points. It's turning their customers into loyal brand ambassadors and basically allowing folks to participate in their brand online. Also talk about knowing your audience. Have you guys seen or noticed that Carytown Cupcakes is doing something they call Harry Potter Week every year? Basically, their staff figured out that a lot of their customers were into Harry Potter, and some of the staff was as well. So they leaned in hard into this idea of creating an event that has meaning with their audience and then also brings people in the store. Folks post about it on Instagram, they order ahead, they do all kinds of events all around the week, in addition to kind of tailoring these specific flavors to the overall theme. Basically, they paid attention to what was important to their audience, and then they made something really fun and interactive with their brand to connect with those folks. The Jasper is another really great example, also in Carytown, basically next door to Carytown Cupcakes. But if you've had the pleasure of hanging out inside of the Jasper space, you know how much they care about the details of their brand experience. From the materials in the space to the saturated colors, to the laid-back atmosphere that the bartenders bring to the table, to the unexpected details that they have put in their space. There's a comedy track that plays in the restrooms at all times, and when you get certain cocktails, they actually add their logo to the ice cube of the cocktails. I mean, talk about detail-oriented. They have really considered every single moment that you're going to be interacting with that brand in the space, and then thought about what they want that experience to be for you. It is so much more than a great cocktail menu. It is an immersive experience that sort of leaves you walking away saying, I can't wait to go back, or I can't wait to tell a friend about that. All right, so now we've covered our branding pro tips and essentials. Once you've got these foundations in place, you can start to think about sharing the message on social media, and Sam is going to take us through some great tips for that.
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys about social media. So your social media presence allows you to connect with your customers, build a community, communicate important information, sell to current customers, garner feedback, and generate new business. Social media also creates the opportunity to digitally collaborate with other businesses, amplifying your audience reach. So let's talk level 1 tips for social media. First, you want to create an informative and engaging profile and keep your information accurate and up to date. Set up your profile so that it serves your audience. Include pertinent info such as your address, telephone number, website, hours of operation, current practices or procedures, and any special details customers need to know. You want to make it as easy and clear as possible for your audience to purchase your product or service. Routinely verify that your information is up to date and that your links are working. A broken link is a quick way to send a customer packing, which is not good. The next thing that you want to do is figure out your look and then stick to it. A well-branded and cohesive social media feed is key to increasing brand awareness. Your look can be a photo style, graphic treatment, or pattern of post types. Just make sure that it's yours and that you stick to it. You want to also be consistent. Share content when your audience is most active and do this consistently so they can begin to expect your content. If you find it difficult to create content every day, try planning it out ahead of time with helpful apps like Planoly or Later. Next, have a clear call to action. Each piece of content shared should have a very clear call to action and should encourage the viewer to take the next step to visit your website, make a reservation, or tell a friend about it, even make a purchase. Let's talk about level 2. Level 2 tips. Engage with your audience. You build an emotional connection when you respond to comments and engage with your audience. Responding to comments or questions encourages the behavior, and not only are you connecting directly with the person that you are responding to, but when other people see that you are taking the time to respond and engage, you're encouraging them to do that as well. You want to also use the appropriate hashtags. The use of hashtags will display your content in relevant spaces outside of your own profile. Research industry standard hashtags and avoid using ones that are too broad. Pro tip, you can also use hashtags to attract the attention of influencers, media, and publications that may result in reposts or collaborations. Next, tag individuals, businesses, and brands in your photos when it makes sense. By tagging others in your post, you're increasing awareness and the opportunity to reach a wider audience. In some cases, it can demonstrate expertise in your field as well. It also communicates to your audience that your brand works collaboratively with others. All right, level 3. So let's talk about strategic posting and patterns based on what your goals are. The most successful social media accounts are ones with clearly defined goals and content creation that specifically targets each goal and is done so with consistency. Choose 2 to 5 goals and then aim to create pieces of content that speak to each of those goals. We definitely recommend that you do some professional branded photography. Many social media platforms are highly visual, and therefore it's important to share clear, aesthetically pleasing photos alongside your copy. Create a library with plenty of options so that you can choose and use them as needed and also recycle through them. Aim to have new photos taken every 6 to 12 months. Okay, value add. Let's talk about tips and resources. By creating content that adds value, such as tips, hacks, useful information, sharing resources with your followers, you are engaging your audience in a way that is not always a hard sell, but it also establishes your business as a leader and an expert. It's a free and easy way to keep your audience engaged. Lastly, you want to use apps like Link in Bio, Linktree, or Shorby. These apps allow you to link consumers to multiple places throughout your single Instagram profile link. Sometimes that can be limiting, and so using these apps allows you to direct them to multiple places. All right, let's take a look at a few local brands that we feel are really hitting this mark. First up is Ever Better. We really love this brand because they began telling their story long before they even opened their doors. And while they consistently create tons of content, they stick with their brand assets, creating a seamless feed that transcends the evolution of their business. If you visit their page, you'll also find that they frequently repost almost all of their followers' content, which encourages new customers and other customers to do the same as well, which is great. It's basically free content that you haven't had to create that you can go ahead and share and repost. So it's a great way to encourage your clients to share your content, and then you're also reaching their audience as well. Another great example of a food-related business doing well on social media is Bovine Burger. Not only do they have great photography that showcases the full gambit of their offerings, but they regularly include key information for their customers, like hours, specials, and how to order in every single post. Since social media can be so fleeting, it's important to continuously include pertinent information in each piece of content that they share, and they're very successful in doing this. I also wanted to give a quick shout out. I know Gigi Frozen Custard is on here as well, and I think they do a really good job of including that information as well. So way to go, guys. So that wraps up our social media section. Next up, Chelsea is going to take us through web design pro tips.
Hi guys. Yep, that is right. Thanks, Sam. It's time for websites. So if branding is the foundation of your digital marketing, then your website is the front door. It's usually the first place your audience interacts with your brand. So you got about 15-30 seconds to make the right first impression. So let's make sure that impression is true of your brand and your personality. To get started, number one, share a straightforward description of what you do, who for, and how to hire you. It sounds really simple, but if it's not clear, users will hop off your site pretty quick. You don't need to be boring. You can use your brand voice, but definitely prioritize a clear and concise description of the fundamentals. Number two, obvious calls to action. This one is an easy win that I can't wait for you to implement if you have not already. Your website exists for a reason, and that reason is to encourage user action. Book an appointment, reserve a table, call us for more information, or buy that shirt that's been in your cart for forever. That's definitely on my list. All of those are examples of user action. So let your audience know exactly what you want from them and put those requests and those actions in a very obvious place. Third, make it easy for your users to contact and follow you. Again, simple, but very essential. Make sure that your email, key contact info, and social media accounts are in very obvious places on your website. I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to a website to find an address or a phone number to reach out to and it's not there. So we definitely don't want that. Also, don't forget about your contact form. You can make your life easier by customizing your contact form with unique questions that encourage strong leads for you, that make it easier for you and easier down the road. Lastly, make it easy for a user to give you their email address. If your visitors and users are willing to give you their information, let's take advantage of that. So now that we've kind of covered the basics of level 1, we can take it a step deeper for level 2. First up, responsive design. Responsive design is the ability for your site to respond to the browser width of your visitor, meaning your website looks good on any device. Technically, this is in level 2, but it's definitely a level 1 priority. Over 50% of online traffic is now from a mobile device, meaning more than half of everyone on the internet is using a phone or a tablet. I can definitely attest to that. A lot of my shopping and searching is on my phone. This means it's incredibly important to be mobile and tablet friendly. Many website platforms nowadays have built-in mobile features, but you can also custom code your own version as well, if that's the route you'd like to take. Next up, we've really covered the basics after the responsiveness, and now it's time to get a little more unique with custom branded website. Layering in custom design details is a really important step in differentiating your brand online. Today's consumers are incredibly savvy, and they're expecting a really beautifully branded website that matches your company's values and reputation. An unbranded or overly generic site will leave customers wondering about the legitimacy of your brand. Finally, number 3, to start to add in that branded copy. The language of your website should be branded as well as everything else on your website. Speaking from your unique brand voice will help breathe life into your brand. If your brand is bold and fun-loving, a little quirky, your copy should match that excitement you want your customers to feel. On the flip side, if your brand is polished and more traditional, your copy should meet the formality your customer is expecting. Either way, make sure the tone of your copy is intentional and connects to your target audience. So we'll move on to level 3. We're in the big leagues. A few final best practices for an exceptional website. First up is branded photography. I know this has been mentioned a couple of times, but I promise you this is an investment that's worth it. With so little time to grab our audience's attention, we must infuse meaning into every page and touch point on the website. Photography is one of the best ways to tell a story without words. You can showcase your brand's personality in a matter of seconds by just sharing the right images. This is a level 3 tip because it does require a bit of investment and help from a professional partner, but a great photo shoot will provide you with a library of branded content to use for a really long time to come, not to mention multiple different ways that you can use those images as well. Number 2, now that your site looks amazing with this branded photography and everything, it's time to create and add some shared added value. Creating valuable content for your audience is one of the best ways to keep them coming back. Added value content is simply any resource that would be helpful for your audience. That could be in the form of a blog post, article, videos, ebooks, or workshops like this one. Within those formats, you can share tips, lessons learned, how-tos, best practices, interviews, and so much more. Just make sure that the content is relevant to your audience and is in alignment with your brand or industry. Finally, give it a beautiful and prominent home on your website, and then tell the world via all of your other marketing channels. Finally, to wrap up our website section, we want to encourage you to explore custom functionality and features. The more that you can customize your website to match the needs of your users, the more that they will enjoy the whole experience. AKA, they're going to stay longer and they're more likely to make a purchase, reach out, or whatever your goal may be. Adding custom functionality to your site could mean making it easier to sort or find content, or include some cool, unique design detail that sets you apart from your competitors. There are so many cool effects and layering techniques nowadays to really help your site stand out. This step will likely require a design and development partner, but it could be well worth the investment in a very competitive market. So with that, let's take a look at a few examples. So first up is Blanchard's Coffee. We're huge fans of them. We love their product, but we also really enjoy their website. Every detail of their website tells a story about their brand, from the photography to the branded copy to the ease of a shopping experience. They also make it easy to update subscriptions or change an online order, which is very important for them, especially nowadays. It makes me feel good, and I want to come back to their site to order more. Bonus points also for their newsletter. It's an excellent extension of what everything is on the web experience. Finally, a site that doesn't have to be overly big or complex to stand out is the Holly Fund. The Holly Fund is a local nonprofit that provides grants for food service workers in crisis. Their site has obvious calls to action, an integrated application form, and the story behind the Holly Fund. It's easy to find what you need, but unique enough to be memorable. One of the most important parts of their website is the grant application form. Instead of making a difficult situation harder by asking people to download a PDF, fill it out, email it back, we have the whole form integrated onto the site, which makes everyone's life easier. As you explore your website efforts, there are two platforms that we love at Campfire, Squarespace and Shopify, but we're happy to answer any questions about those later and save them for the end if you have them. But of course, working with a pro is always a good choice if you're creating a website pushes you out of your comfort zone. So that about wraps up our website pro tips. I'm going to pass it over to Alicia to talk about email marketing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. That was awesome. So again, I'm Alicia with the Richmond Experience, and you may recognize that name if you are a subscriber to our weekly email newsletter, the Weekly Insider. That's something that we send out each Wednesday for Richmond Experience members. So lots of regular experience writing emails and trying to get people excited about opening them and clicking what's within them. So let's dive in a little bit here. We'll start with level 1. And I think even before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about why email matters. So, Christy was talking about the foundation of your marketing being your branding. And then Chelsea spoke about the front door being your website. I'm going to consider email marketing almost like the clubhouse that you have in your backyard, because these are the people who are really on the inside. They've elected to receive your emails somehow. So whether they signed up through your website, they made a purchase, or anything else, these people want to know what's going on with you, and they've elected to receive regular communication from you. And, in terms of social media, those audiences really aren't yours. Like if you have a large audience on Facebook, but then Instagram becomes the new thing, now you've got to start over and start building that audience again. And then if TikTok happens to become the new thing, which definitely isn't happening to any of us right now, then you have to start building an audience there. So really your email subscriber list is the only audience that you really fully own that has elected to receive communications from you in the same platform indefinitely. So that's kind of the baseline importance. These are people who want to know what's going on with your business, who want to know how they can support, and who are really advocates for and interested in what you do. So the first step obviously is capturing the emails that are going to comprise that list. So you want to do that through calls to action on your website. So this could be a pop-up that encourages people to submit their email address in exchange for a discount or some type of freebie. It could be a static form in the footer of your website that encourages users to subscribe in exchange for a free resource. So maybe something like a secret menu or a freebie like this workshop or something along those lines. Or you can collect through a contact form. So if somebody reaches out with a question and submits their email address, you could collect their email information that way. But I would say for most people here, you're probably going to be collecting email addresses through ordering forms. So when people are placing an order, when they're making a reservation, you're getting that contact information, and that's really great. That's a solid place to begin building that list. From there, you want to use your list. So you want to send out emails pretty regularly. I like to say at least once a quarter because, from winter to spring, summer to fall, you're probably making some big changes to either your product list or what you're offering on the menu or, whatever your business happens to be. Chances are that you're going to be making some big changes from season to season. Even if you're not making big changes, people just like that occasional check-in, and that reminder in their inbox is going to be really valuable. So I recommend recapping any recent projects or completed work that you've done, and then highlighting timely news. So seasonal deals or events you might be hosting, things like that. And then you want to include calls to action. So when people are opening these emails, what do you want them to do? I mean, ideally, if you step back and look at all of this holistically, all of your digital marketing efforts are for people to support your business in some way. So to make a purchase from you, to interact with your brand, I mean, all of those things are really your end goal. So you want to include a button that says purchase now or read more or learn more. You want to send them out of the email to your website or out of the email to your social media channels. You really want them to be taking some type of action. In your email, you could include an ad for a limited time only deal or some type of offering that offers a sense of urgency. Link out to shop your products, make a reservation, request a quote, really whatever makes sense for your business that could result in real trackable revenue. So that's level 1 for you. And if you have all of that done, you're in a good spot. But we'll move on to level 2. At this point, you want to start incorporating some really comprehensive branded design into your email newsletters. So including your logo and other branded visual elements that are easily recognizable by your audience, using that same color palette across your website, email, social media, etc. You want them all to feel like an extension of one another. So I should be able to open an email and immediately know, oh, this is from Campfire. And I obviously do because their branding is on point. But you want to keep all of your visuals really consistent, but also your messaging, because as Christy mentioned, your messaging is a part of your brand as well. So if you're speaking really casually like a friend in one platform, you want to continue to do that across all platforms, versus if you're going to be relatively formal on one platform, you want to do that across all platforms. An additional thing for level 2 would be value-added content. So tips and resources for your audience that only you could provide. So thinking about what your audience comes to you for specifically. So, are they coming to you for recipe ideas? Are they coming to you for tips and tricks on how to organize X, Y, or Z? Just think about the conversations that you have with your average customer and how to translate that into a resource that you can provide to them in an email that makes them excited to open it. And then think, checklists or blog posts or anything that's really like you establishing yourself as an authority on a topic and getting people excited to learn about that topic from you via your email newsletter. And then, last in level 2, you want to be reviewing your analytics and adjusting your strategies as necessary. So most email marketing platforms, whether you're using MailChimp or Squarespace or Constant Contact or anything else, will have an Insights tab where you can kind of see how your email campaign is performing, whether people are opening it, whether people are clicking on the links that you've included. And you can kind of see trends from quarter to quarter or week to week, however often you send out your email newsletters, that say whether that number is going up or down. So you'll be able to establish a base and then see, oh man, we're really decreasing on open rate. Maybe I need to switch up what my subject lines look like, or I'm seeing a decrease in click rates. Maybe I need to make the content within the email more enticing once people have opened it. So really, I always say, why have an email marketing strategy if you're not going to review how it's doing? So there's no point in just throwing things at the wall and then not seeing what stuck, if that makes sense. So all of this is going to leave you in a really solid place as far as having a super decent, even good email marketing strategy. But if you want to up the ante to a great email marketing strategy, we'll move on to level 3. And this is where things get a little bit advanced and might start to sound scary, but don't let it frighten you away. Once you get to level 3, we're going to focus on 2 key things here. One would be a drip campaign, and then one would be segmentation. For segmentation, let's consider if you're a restaurant who is not vegan specific, but is known for having a good vegan menu. You're not going to be wanting to send your dedicated vegan customers something about the amazing new cuts of meat that you just got. So if you're able to, when people sign up, have them answer, check all that apply, what is your dietary preference, then you can segment by people's dietary preferences which emails they get. So you might not choose to include your vegan subscribers when you're talking about the amazing meat that you recently ordered or the incredible cheeses that you have or anything like that. So really figuring out people's age or gender, whether people live in Richmond proper versus living in Chesterfield, or their website behavior. Are they frequently looking at pages with your products versus making a reservation in-house? All of these things can help you tailor the email to be as successful as possible when they actually open it. So you want to make sure that you're really honing in on who the audience is that you're speaking to and why. So that's really where segmentation comes in. Drip campaigns, on the other hand, are typically set up by your email marketing manager in advance to be triggered by specific actions. So let's say once somebody subscribes, they automatically receive a welcome email. That's step 1 of a drip campaign. Step 2 might be that 2 weeks later, they automatically receive a follow-up email with a 20% off code. And that was set up in advance by your email marketing guru on your team so that people would automatically be pulled back in 2 weeks later after they had initially gotten whatever that code was. So really, you can set up these touch points as regularly as you want. I like to say that you should, at least in the beginning when somebody subscribes, have something going out to them every 4 to 6 weeks, just so that they recognize that you're going to continue to provide value. As far as some people who are doing a really great job locally in terms of email marketing, one awesome example that I like to give is Cirrus Vodka. So as soon as you open an email from Tom and his team, you're going to see the Cirrus Vodka branding. All of their text is going to be in the same color palette. The photography is going to be very high quality. It's going to look really professional. So that's step 1. 2 is they've got really engaging subject lines with discounts or limited time offers to really encourage people to open and to pique people's interest. And then typically they'll include some timely information. So whether that's a new release, some key ordering information, or other actionable items that really encourage people to make a purchase right from the email. So they do a great job of making sure that things are super actionable. Another one would be mise en place. So they really do a good job of fun and engaging copy that's very representative of the brand's personality. So obviously, if you're doing a cooking class with anybody on the team, you're going to understand that they're fun and inclusive, and they really have that shine through in their subject lines and the copy that they include in their email. They also obviously include timely information for their upcoming events, whether virtual or in person. And those are typically tied to upcoming holidays or seasonal happenings. So it makes it feel really exciting to open an email and be like, ooh, what is coming up for St. Patrick's Day? Are you going to teach me to make beer cheese? Are you going to teach me to make all these other Irish delicacies? I definitely want to plan ahead for that. And so they really get you excited for what's in the pipeline. And they've just got a key focus on adding value for the user. So if you're looking to subscribe to anybody to get kind of that inspiration for really great email newsletters, these are definitely 2 to check out. So that's it for email marketing, but I think we're going to talk a little bit about some resources that we have, if you'd like to go ahead and do that, Christy.
Yeah, absolutely. We just wanted to include this page real quick. We're not going to go super in detail into all of these resources here, but we wanted you to have this real quick. You can screenshot this, or if you see something here that you've never heard of before and you want to know more about, definitely drop a question in that ask a question box down at the bottom. But there are a number of different resources that will really help you with your digital marketing efforts. You don't have to create everything from scratch. You don't have to be working alone. And these are some really great tools and a lot of resources that we use on our team on a regular basis. And I'm sure Alicia and Sam use a lot of these quite a bit as well. So again, you can Google these, or if you have any questions about anything that's written here, just jot that down and we'll answer those at the end. Okay, so we have landed here at the end of our conversation today. Next steps and questions. So a couple of the things that we've talked about is that digital marketing, it can be overwhelming or can feel overwhelming as you start to consider where you're going to begin tackling some of these. So we suggest basically start small and be strategic. Consider your goals and which areas of digital marketing will help you accomplish your goals. Are you looking to engage more with current clients? Perhaps that means email newsletter might be the way to go. Are you looking to book more reservations? Perhaps you need to consider the call to action that are happening on your website or social. Basically, get a little bit more granular with what it is you want to achieve with your digital marketing, and that will really help point you in the right direction. Like we mentioned before, if you're able to get through level 1 of each of these pillars, you are laying a solid foundation to build your brand across multiple platforms. If you're up for a challenge, we suggest getting into level 2 and tackling some of those to increase your reach and impact. And admittedly, level 3 is where things start to get advanced, but don't be deterred. Real magic can happen when you start to invest in those. There are obviously plenty of resources like we just mentioned, and Richmond as a town and a community is full of incredible design and marketing professionals who would be thrilled to help you achieve your goals. Folks like Barb Upchurch at the Apple Cart, and obviously Hatch and Real Local are here for you, as well as our teams. So I am going to, let's see, what's my next slide? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and would love to dive into some of these questions real quick. I'm just going to make that screen a little bit smaller so you guys can see all of us again. And I'm just going to start from the top here, but Barb put in a great note at the top of the workshop about getting trademarks. So in specialty food world, that can be a really important aspect of growing your brand. So, just something to consider as you start to move into your branding process, thinking about your name, starting to build your brand. You may want to look into talking to a lawyer early on. That's really the best way to ensure that your brand and your name is trademarkable. And once you confirm that, then you can really start to get into that nitty-gritty of working with a designer or building out your website, whatever that is, working on your packaging. So thanks so much for mentioning that, Barb. And then our next questions are about social media. So these, I think, are for you, Sam. First one is from Beth, and she said, I've seen some information lately that saving post is a new algorithm within Instagram. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think Instagram realized that when somebody just simply likes it, it's such a quick and passive thing. But when somebody goes out of their way to save the content, it means that they want to refer back to it at a later date, which makes it a little bit more valuable than simply liking it. During our last workshop that we hosted, Alicia also brought up a really good point that Reels is a very new concept for Instagram. And so they're putting a lot of stock into brands that are creating Reels content because they want businesses and brands to be creating it. It's, I guess, their version of TikTok to compete with them. So if you have the capacity to create Reels content, that's definitely really contributing to algorithm right now for Instagram.
Okay, perfect. So next question is, for small business owners who are doing everything themselves, would you say that Instagram and Facebook are the best two platforms to focus on?
Yes, I would. I think majority of the folks that we have on this call probably aren't really targeting the younger crowd, like our TikTokers. That would be probably 23 and under. So I think that you should definitely be focusing your time on Facebook and Instagram at this point. And there's nothing wrong with creating multiple pieces of content to share throughout platforms. So if you have the capability of being on a TikTok or a Twitter, depending on what your business model is, we definitely encourage you to check out those as well. But I would say that those are the two main ones for sure.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think this next one is for you, Alicia. Email marketing. What is the best rule of thumb, pop-up or subscribe in the header for email marketing signups, basically? I think it's from Barb. She said her clients kind of go back and forth as to which one is best.
So I know that for a while, Google was having issues in terms of SEO when somebody would add what's called an interstitial, which is a pop-up to their website. So there was a while when you would get dinged from an SEO perspective if you had a pop-up on your website. However, it kind of depends on what platform you have created your website through. So I know that on Squarespace, it will use cookies to determine whether somebody has already seen the pop-up. They'll only serve it once. They won't serve it every single time that that person visits. So it really depends on where you've built your website, I think. But I would say pop-ups are good when you've got something really timely. I don't know that they need to be used forever and ever, versus if you have something either in your header or your footer that's like a permanent space where people can subscribe. They know that they can find it. It's really easily visible across every single page on your website. I think that that can be a safer bet. But the pop-up can be good when you've got like a very specific sale going on, or you've got a really specific event coming up. Basically, when there's something special and it's there for like a limited time, it can be useful.
I think that makes perfect sense.
To add to that, on the Richmond Experience, we have a specific page where a pop-up is generated. So instead of maybe doing it on your homepage, if you don't feel like that's appropriate, you can have the banner throughout your entire website. And then if there's a specific page that you feel like people might be visiting or that you're directing folks to in pieces of content, you can have a pop-up there. We do that, as Alicia had mentioned, Squarespace does recognize. I think we can set like how often it pops up. So once it's popped up for somebody, it doesn't pop up again for 14 days. And so it's not an overwhelming thing for anybody, but it is a great reminder to, sign up for a newsletter or whatever the case might be. So that's an option as well. You can definitely explore your individual website host to see what your options are.
Okay, cool. Next up, Beth has a question about MailChimp. So Alicia and Sam, not sure if you guys know this exactly, but do you know if you are able to send automated welcome emails if you're using the free version of MailChimp?
No.
Got it.
You have to pay for the first paid level. I don't think it's very expensive. I want to say it's $15 a month. Don't quote me on it, but I think it's
12. They just upped it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so it might be worth investing in that if that's something that you're interested in.
I also think, though, depending on your website, like Squarespace has automated email functioning, don't they?
Yes.
With signups?
Right. So Squarespace does. I know that the website Wix does. So it really is just dependent on your platform. I will say, if you use a website platform that has its own email marketing manager, that can be a very easy entry-level way to make sure that everything's very cohesive. It kind of just depends how important email marketing is to your overall digital marketing strategy. So for us, our weekly emails are a huge draw for members. So we took that out of Squarespace and do it specifically in MailChimp just because of additional functionality. But if you're just planning on sending a quarterly newsletter, I think doing it within your own platform is perfectly fine.
That's a great point. Mm-hmm. Okay, from Connor, he's wondering how good is Canva's free version and should you just skip to the paid version? Chelsea, I know this is something that you have used a lot with a lot of our clients. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I do. So I think it really depends on the graphics that they offer, the imagery, and then also how established your brand is. They have this option called Brand Kit that is only available in the paid version. And that just makes it so you can put all your fonts, your favorite imagery, your colors, and all that good stuff, logos in there, and easy to drag and drop. The only problems that I've run in with the Canva free version, I see, yeah, it's a godsend. And true, it is. It does have a lot of advantages. The only problems I run in with the free version is resizing issues. If you make something and you can't do that. You can't resize it to a different size for a different platform, as well as it's just not as good as those little graphics. You don't have as much option, I guess I would say. So that's what I would say on Canva.
That's great. That's really, really helpful, Chelsea. Okay, from Katie, she has asked, how do you know when to rebrand? So I'll try to really just give a super quick overview on this. We wrote a blog post on our blog recently, actually, about this. I dropped a link in the chat. But just a quick overview, if you are looking to rebrand, we basically have kind of like 3 main bullet points of a reason why you might consider a rebrand. So the number one that I have in my list is that people are getting confused. Like if your audience or your friends or your family are showing signs of confusion around your business or your brand, that could signal that there's something that it's not quite coming across in your brand. Second is that visuals are misaligned. So let's say that you've had a business or an organization that's been around for a little while. You're really you're providing amazing services. You're doing great work. You're providing delicious food. But when you look at your brand or your visuals that represent it, it doesn't quite feel like it matches. Like either the quality or just the overall look and feel. Maybe the personality feels off. That could be another signal that you potentially need to consider a rebrand. And then the final one is basically, is there any kind of big change happening? Do you have a really large thing that's changing about what you're doing? Are you expanding your business? Are you shifting your focus in terms of who your audience is? Are you pivoting? That's just another reason you may want to consider, let's say you're adding a partner, you're doing a merger, all those kinds of things are other big reasons why you might consider a rebrand. But definitely tap that link if that's something you're interested in learning more about, because there's a ton more information in that blog post. Okay, next up, Andy asked, what is the best way to market to people that may not be very computer savvy? Which is an interesting question. Alicia or Sam, do you guys have any initial thoughts on that? He said specifically, sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no,
there was a comment, specifically seniors who may not have social media.
I mean, I think obviously the easiest one would be to have somebody help you, right? We wear so many different hats as small business owners, right? And so we're doing a lot of times procuring business and we're putting everything together. Sometimes it's easier to just have somebody else do it if that's not your strong suit. But we also understand that small businesses sometimes don't have the budget for something like that. And so what I would suggest is that you pick one thing and start small and try to master that. Maybe somebody like a Barb from Apple Card or like a consulting, somebody that you wouldn't have to bring on like in a full-time or part-time role that can consult in the beginning and kind of get you going and give you, show you the ropes. I think would be probably the way that I would go about it is pick one thing that you feel like is going to where you're going to reach the most of your audience. If you think that you have a little bit of an older clientele, then maybe Facebook is the right place for you. And then you focus some energy on that. And then once you feel comfortable with that, you can move on to expanding your social media reach. And of course, if you guys have anything to add.
Yeah, I would just say it's all about getting to know your audience, right? So learning a little bit more about the folks that you're targeting will help you hone in on where you want to connect with them. So maybe that's like you realize that a lot of the older population that you want to talk to typically lives in a specific type of housing or something. And maybe there's a way you could connect with developers who have those types of properties and do some kind of mailer that works with that, or some type of in-facility advertising. I think kind of it's really just learning. The more you learn about your audience, the better equipped you are to connect with them in ways that are meaningful to them.
I would also say, if you're going to decide between one of these 4 things as what would be the most relevant to seniors and like the most helpful in kind of like getting them excited about your business, I would say it would be branding. I think having really clear, easy to read branding that's like memorable is going to be really key for you, whether you're using that in mailers, on a sign outside of your business, on a billboard, on Facebook, wherever. If you can get in front of them and have a memorable brand that like sticks in their mind, I think that might be your best bet. I think we can talk about like, well, my grandma's on Facebook, and like that's true, but like I don't think that we're going to be able to blanket assess where your audience is or isn't. But I think that if you're going to invest in one of these things, your best bet's going to be branding, and then you can kind of tackle level 1 of everything else as long as you've got branding locked down.
I think that's a great point, Alicia. Okay, last question we've got right now. If you guys have any additional questions, for sure, add them in here. I know we're like just wrapping up. It's like right at 4, but our last one says, Chase and I have been considering SMS marketing. I'm imagining that means text message marketing. Yeah, for our customers, giving them a quick update on our truck's location. What are your thoughts on this form of marketing?
I think it's a personal preference thing. Personally, I love it. I am subscribed to a couple of businesses SMS, and I never find it annoying to get their text messages. And I think, Kendall, for you guys specifically, you are on the go so much that you do need to let people know where you are. And so I'm all for it. And listen, people can opt in, right? That's the beauty of it. So you're not going to be sending it to anybody that doesn't want it. I would assume maybe like on your checkout, your Square, whatever your point of sale, that you would be able to maybe have them opt in or opt out. And they can always opt out if they decide they don't want to get the text messages. So I think I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
I was going to say, as long as it's used sparingly to an extent, like as long as you're basically only using it to share that pertinent information about where you are, and you're not just texting out just like random updates that aren't necessarily related to what people want to receive, I think that's good. And I also think it's just important to recognize that like some people are eventually maybe going to be like, okay, I don't want to receive these anymore. And as long as your feelings might not be hurt by someone who has decided that they don't want to receive them anymore, then I think that you're fine.
Thanks, Chelsea, for popping in that last question.
Yes,
so we have a question from Lane. It says, according to the insights of our Instagram account, 75% of our audience are women. How would you recommend appealing to a wider audience? We are a small batch pasta company and never expected to be weighted in so much in one gender. I have kind of like a 2-parter on this, but I'll let Alicia and Sam and Chelsea weigh in as well. But I guess I would start by saying, is there a reason you need to have a wider audience? Is your Instagram trying to tell you something about the fact that your brand and your product really appeals to women? And is there a reason maybe to double down on that? Do you want to kind of maybe shift the idea that your audience might be more diverse and realize, okay, if women are really the folks, I mean, if you do it, like, I feel like there's a little bit of research behind like who makes grocery decisions, and that typically is heavily weighted in for women. We just worked with a produce company kind of talking about this. And so you might just kind of shift your idea around who you think your audience is. And sometimes that's really the beauty of social. It tells us a lot about who actually buys and our products and follows us. And then my second part to the question would be, if you really would like to expand a little bit more your audience, which I think is totally fair, I would consider the touch points and kind of what they're representing. Do you show a lot of women in your photography? Is your brand voice or brand language appealing to women for a particular reason? How does your brand represent? Is there something about what you're putting out there in terms of your brand voice or your brand visuals that is specifically appealing to women? And if there's a reason you want to shift that, perhaps updating some of those things might open it up to that other audience. But I'll pause and let Alicia and Sam add to that.
Well, I was also going to say, just generally speaking, Instagram has more female users than male. So I have never worked for a company that had like an equal amount of male, female, or more male than female, because it just happens to be a female driven platform. I think because
Great point.
women tend to just be more aesthetic minded. So I would say compare the data that you have from your Instagrams, what you get from like your website or your Facebook, just to see if you're really, for whatever reason, just primarily reaching women, or if it's like platform based.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Totally. 43% of Instagram users identify as men. So it's no wonder. I think every platform usually has a little bit more of a leaning woman, audience.
Yeah.
And I love pasta, so
Oh,
makes sense.
I'm hungry. My stomach is
getting
growling.
hungry talking about it, actually.
So last question we've got here right now is best application or platform for SMS or text message marketing. Do you guys know of any?
I honestly don't.
Yeah, that's not really my wheelhouse either.
Dude, now I feel like I have to learn it for our next workshop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
If
well,
anybody has any that they are familiar with or have used in the past, if you guys want to drop those in the chat, we would love to have that. But apologies, yeah, that one's just fully out of our wheelhouse. Okay, so that's all the questions we've got for now. We've got a couple more minutes. If anybody else has any additional questions, please hop them in the chat there or in that button at the bottom. I will take us kind of just basically to our next slide, our last slide here that we've got. And then I think, Sam, if you want to take us through that real quick.
You got it. Yeah. Thank you guys all for those great questions. We want you to know, basically, biggest takeaway is that we're here for you. Our team at the Richmond Experience can help with getting the word out about your business on social media. We can help increase your reach, your follower count, your engagement rate, and more, sending more Richmonders into your lead funnel, and then ultimately impacting your revenue. So we can also help with brand awareness through our website and weekly emails. We can share information about your business with our members, directly send them your way. Campfire, just to reiterate, provides services including branding and graphic design, website design, and interior design as well. And with that, we just want to let you guys know that we believe in you. We hope that you've taken away some digestible bits about marketing essentials so that you can go forth and conquer. And you know how to reach us if you need help with anything, but the next slide has some of our contact information as well. And we hope to connect with you guys all soon. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to chat more.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us. I think Beth mentioned it in the chat there, but that little green button at the bottom of the screen, it says get a copy of the ebook. It's basically just a written copy of a lot of what we talked about today. So if having something like that in your toolkit will be helpful, I think it's just it'll link you over to our online store where you can just download a copy of that. But we really, really appreciate everybody hanging out with us today, sharing questions, having great conversation in the chat. That makes it really fun for us to do this. So we really appreciate that. Thanks so much to Local RVA and Hatch and the Apple Cart for having us. We hope to see you guys again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. And then, sorry, just one more thing. Just wanted to mention that there will be a recording of today's conversation, and we'll send that out to Real Local and Hatch and the Apple Cart in case you guys want to take a rewatch and look at the workshop again. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
bye, guys.